Hey everyone, today we are going to talk about natural resources. So, starting our lesson with a question. What are natural resources? So, we get two definitions for it, like materials from earth that are used by livings for survival, or is any useful material or mineral that people take from the earth. So basically all the things that we are getting it naturally from the earth considered to be natural resources. And basically we can divide them in two types, or we can say that we got two type of resources on earth, like renewable and non-renewable resources. So let's define renewable one. All the resources that can be replaced within 100 years by the nature is renewable resources. All the resources that we are getting it from nature easily, because nature can produce it, or we can say replace it in 100 years, like wind, solar, and different kind of stuffs. And non-renewable resources are resources that cannot be replaced within 100 years. It can be fossil fuels, for example, that the production of that kind of resources would take 1,000 years, and that's why we can say that non-renewable resources cannot be replaced in 100 years. And examples of non-renewable resources are like oil, natural gas, and coal. So let's define renewable resources. As I told you before, that natural resources that can be replaced and reused constantly by the nature is renewable resources. For example, forests, flowers or plants, sunlight, wind, and air can be good examples for the renewable resources. And if we talk about non-renewable resources, we can say that natural resources that cannot be replaced by the nature in 100 years can be considered as non-renewable resources. For example, gems, rocks, and minerals. As we know, the production of that kind of precious stones would take time, and this might take lots of years, more than 100 years. And the other is fossil fuels like coal, oil, gasoline, and natural gas. These kind of stuffs are getting produced from the remain of once living organisms buried. It means while we bury the dead organism inside the soil, after 1,000 years, the body of that living organism can turn to be oil, coal, petroleum, natural gas, and that kind of stuff, which is an example of non-renewable resources. So as we can say that fuel that is formed from the remains of once living organisms buried for 1,000 years, which is kind of coal, oil, petroleum, and natural gas. So now let's talk about conservation of natural resources. As Mahatma Gandhi said once, that earth provides enough to satisfy every man's need, but not every man's greed. So as let's define the conservation, like what we mean by conservation. We can say that conservation or conserving resources also means taking care of the resources even when you are not using them. For example, it's important to keep lakes, rivers, and other water resources free from pollution. Polluting lakes and rivers can affect the water you drink. It means as doesn't matter that we have water right now. We have lots of water, we can use it, and it's sufficient for us. But we have to take care of the water sources. We have to stop polluting water, lakes and rivers, for example, because after some years that mistake would be so much bad for us, because we might lose the drinking water. So as conserving is like taking care of something, doesn't matter if we need it right now or not. So as we have to use it some years past, not right now. That's why we have to take care of it. So conserving natural resources is something which is really important and necessary. as we know that nature provides all the basic needs that we need or which are necessity to us, but we are, I mean, as humans, we are over exploiting and overusing that kind of resources. That's why we have to conserve natural resources. We have to take care of it. And do you know, if we continue overusing or over exploiting natural resources like this, there will be no more resources available in future. As I told you before, that for example, the water resources, we have to take care of it. We have to stop overusing it, unnecessarily using it, or using it in a bad way. So as there is urgent need to conserve the resources. For example, as I told you, water pollution is a really important thing, or a really dangerous thing that we are doing it. So first, let's define water pollution. Any chemical or physical change in water quality that has a harmful effect on living organisms or makes water unsuitable for desired usage. For example, some factories might pollute the water, or we as human being can pollute the water, and this water pollution can cause two different kind of things. For example, for the extinction of water dwellers, so most of death of most of the fish and other dwellers or other organisms which are living inside water, and it can cause to lack of the water, drinking water. So in most of the countries, most of people are facing with lack of water. They cannot use water. They do not have clean water for drinking or for cooking, or for example, for doing different kind of stuffs. That's why water pollution is a really important thing nowadays, that we have to prevent it. And the other example is deforestation, the unnecessarily cutting trees and plants. So as definition, we can say that permanent destruction of indigenous forests and woodlands which causes to extinction of plants and animals. Not only plants and animals are getting damaged or getting hazards from deforestation, but it is harmful for human as well. As we know, every tree, I mean one single tree, can produce oxygen which would be sufficient for 80 persons annually. As we are cutting a tree unnecessarily, it can cause to we can say lack of oxygen somehow, and this would be a bad situation. So this is also a kind of thing that we have to conserve it. We have to prevent it or take care of it. We have to take care of our plants and forests. So, as we know, soil has become unfit for growing crops nowadays. Water become unhealthy to drink, cook, and wash, and air has become polluted with substance as we are using non-renewable resources, which are producing dusts and smoke, which is really harmful, and even it is destroying ozone layer. So as we have to keep it healthy, we have to keep our nature healthy, we have to conserve our natural resources, and we have to pay attention to that steps. There is two steps that by which we can conserve our natural resources. The first one is that natural resource has to be conserved or saved before it turns too bad, and natural resources has to be reclaimed or made healthy again after it has turned bad. So as precautions should be taken to conserve natural resources, and these precautions are like we have to use from renewable natural resources instead of non-renewable one, because renewable one is easy to get. Nature is producing it easily. It's a bit less harmful than the non-renewable one. So the most important precaution that we can take is to use from renewable one instead of non-renewable one. So as at the end, we have to say that our future is in our hands to protect and conserve the resources for the coming years. That was all about natural resources. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for being with me till the end of the lesson.